Let's examine the Cisco iOS command modes. I'll click on PC1, click on the Terminal Emulation Program, click OK, and you can see that I'm presented with a console command line interface. This is the Cisco iOS. I'll press Enter on my keyboard to get started. Notice the command prompt at the bottom.
So when you start the Cisco device, this is what you see on the screen. Okay, and here this is the prompt. So it's a switch. By default, the name of the switch is switch, but that you have to change it after. Okay.
Left of the screen, which indicates the command mode that I'm in. The Cisco iOS uses different command modes to establish various privilege levels for users. Different commands are available in each mode. For instance, the word switch, which is the default name of the switch, with the greater than sign, indicates that I'm in user exec mode. User exec mode has very little privileges with access to only a limited number of commands. One of those commands available in this mode is the enable command. At the blinking cursor, I'll type the command enable and press enter, and I'm now in privileged exec mode. I can tell this because the prompt has changed from a greater than sign to a hash or a pound sign. Privileged exec mode offers a higher privilege level for the user and more commands are available. If I would like to go to a higher level, I can go into global configuration mode, or global config mode for short.
All right. So when you start the router, you will be in user exec mode. And how would you know is by looking at the prompt. This greater than sign means you're in user exec mode. What does it mean in user exec mode? You cannot make any changes. In user exec mode, it's a security feature. You cannot make any changes. So what you have to do is you have to go to privilege exec mode by using the command enable. Even in privilege mode, you cannot make any changes, but you can view detailed information about the device or the switch. Okay, so the first mode is very limited. Second mode is more gives you more access to the device for security reasons. Okay, now there is a third mode called global configuration mode.
I can reach global config mode by typing in configure terminal and pressing enter. And now you can see the global configuration prompt. This is where most configurations of a switch or router take place. There are also sub-configuration modes like interface configuration mode. If I type interface VLAN 1 and press enter, I'm presented with a prompt.
So in this mode, global configuration mode, right? As you can see, the prompt changes. In every mode, the prompt changes. This is how you know you're in a different mode. Most of your configuration, anything that you want to change in a device, will take place in this mode, global configuration mode. And from global configuration, you can go to another mode, sub mode, for example, interface mode to assign an IP address to an interface.
That indicates I am now in interface configuration mode. Many commands will only work from within certain modes. A common mistake made by users new to working with the Cisco iOS is trying to use commands from within the wrong mode. If you are sure that you are typing a command correctly, but you are continually getting an error message, always check your prompt to make sure you are in the right mode.
Okay, so caution, guys. So let's say you're in privilege mode, right? And you type enable. You will get an error message. It will say wrong command. And probably you'll be looking at the spelling and syntax. Everything is correct, but it still says wrong command. It's just because enable command belong to user mode. So the command that each mode has its own set of commands. So if you type a command and you get an error, invalid command, and you check the command is correct, you might be in the wrong mode. Okay? If you type a question mark, right, in any prompt, it will give you the list of all the available modes. Okay? So this is how you can verify. Okay, navigate between different mode. So your global configuration mode, and you type line console 0, it will take you to the sub mode. If you want to exit from the sub mode, if you want to go back to global configuration mode, you type exit. So the exit takes you from one mode to another mode. Okay? When you type end, it will no matter where you are, it will take you to privilege mode. Okay? Now let's watch this video. Navigate between iOS modes.
Let's look at the commands that are used to move between the different iOS command modes. We'll look at the
Okay, first thing, did you guys notice? So in a packet tracer, you have a switch and you have a computer, right? If you want to configure a switch, you have to connect it through the console cable. This light blue cable is a console cable. Those of you who did the lab, the first physical mode exploration, you remember the console cables that you had to use to connect devices? That's the reason. Without console cable, you cannot access router, or sorry, switch or router's iOS.
enable command, the disable command, configure terminal, exit, and using Control Z on your keyboard, plus some commands to enter different sub-configuration modes. I have a console connection to a switch, so I'll click on PC1 and press Enter, and it takes me to user exec mode. Notice the prompt at the lower left of the screen. To enter privilege exec mode, I type enable. If I want to return back to user exec mode, I can type disable. I'll type enable to return to privilege exec mode. In order to configure the switch, I need to first get to global configuration mode or global config. I'll type configure terminal, and you can see now that I'm in the global configuration prompt. I can type exit and press enter to return to privilege exec mode. If I type exit again, I leave my console connection altogether. To re-enter the switch and get a command line interface, I have to press enter on my keyboard, and now I'm brought back to the console connection with the switch. I'll type enable and press enter, and then config T, short for configure terminal, and now I'm back in global config mode. Let's enter one of the sub-configuration modes. I'll type line console 0 to get to the management interface for the console port. Now that I'm in a sub-configuration mode, if I type exit, I return to global config mode. This time, I'll type line VTY 0 space 15 for my virtual terminal management interfaces.
Okay, at this point, don't worry about these commands and what do they mean. Okay, right now only try to understand different modes. That's all. We will talk about the command later, and you will have plenty of labs to practice these commands. Okay, at this point, only focus on understanding the concept or the basics of the Cisco iOS, like how different modes work. Okay.
These are used for remote administrative access to the switch. I can move directly from one subconfiguration mode to another. Notice if I type in interface VLAN 1 and press enter, that my prompt has changed from line configuration mode to interface configuration mode. From here, I can also enter different interfaces, like interface fast Ethernet 0/1. And as long as I don't see an error message that I've typed an invalid command, I'm in interface config mode for fast Ethernet 0/1. I can also move directly to the line console 0. Commands that are normally run in global config mode can also be run from any of the sub-configuration modes as well. If I want to exit out of all sub-configuration modes and return to privileged exec mode, I can use the N command or press Ctrl Z on my keyboard. Let's give that a try. I'll type end, press enter, enter again, and you can see now that I've returned all the way back to privilege.
All right, so you see the first mode is user exec mode. You type enable, that takes you privilege mode. Then from privilege mode, you type config T or configure terminal, that take you global configuration mode, right? And then you go to the sub mode, you type line console 0, you go to the sub mode, right? If you type exit, it will take you to the previous mode, right? But let's say if you're here, which is the fourth mode, and you wanna go all the way back to switch one, either you can type exit 3 times, or you just you type end, or press Control Z at the same time, and it will take you all the way back to the privilege mode. Okay, this gonna help you
Privileged exec
later on.
mode. I'll return to global configuration mode and then into line console 0. And this time I'll hold down the control key and press Z. And if I press enter, you can see that I'm brought all the way back to privilege exec mode. If I'm in global configuration mode and I type end and press enter, I'm also brought back to privilege exec mode. Learning to navigate efficiently between the different command modes will save you a lot of time.
Okay, so in the curriculum, you have this feature called syntax checker, right? Here you can practice command. For example, here. So what mode are we in? Here, user exec mode, right? And I want to go to uh, privilege exec mode. I type enable. Enable is the command. You see the syntax checker. In the syntax checker, you can practice your command. Now, to go to the global configuration mode, what is the command? Config T. Okay. All right. It asks me in the syntax checker, I have to type full command. It does not accept the short version of the command. So I have to type configure terminal. Okay. Enable interglobal configure mode using the configure terminal command. Okay, configure terminal and exit global configure mode and return to previous using the exit command. Exit command take me back to one mode. Re-enter global configuration. Okay, so here's you have an idea now how to practice your command using the syntax checker. Okay, so in this chapter you have a quiz at the end that you should do it later on. All right, so this is each command. So there in every command line interfaces, whether it's Cisco iOS, Linux, PowerShell, or Windows CMD, there's a prompt followed by the command, followed by the space and the arguments. Okay, so in this case, switch is the prompt, right? Ping is the command. What does the ping command do? It tests the connectivity. So ping is the command itself, and 192.168.10.5 is then it's an argument. So this is how all the commands are structured in Cisco iOS as well. So you have keyword and the argument followed by the command. So this is so here this is the prompt, meaning the location, your current location. Switch port security, aging is the command, and the rest is the argument. So there could be multiple arguments. Another very good feature of Cisco iOS is the help features. Okay, you can get help within the iOS. There are ways to find the correct command or list of commands within the iOS. So let's take a look at the different help features of Cisco iOS.
The Cisco iOS help command is accessed by using the question mark. The help command is context sensitive, so it matters how and where you use the question mark. For instance, let's say I want a list of all the commands that are available to me in user exec mode. I simply type a question mark and I'm returning.
So you see, this is so let's say if you type a command and it gives you an error message and you're not sure either this command is belong to this mode or you're doing something wrong or you're typing the wrong command. So just type the question mark and it will give you the list of all the commands that are available in that mode and just uh, uh, try to match the command that you type to the command that is available. Okay.
Turn the commands that are available in user exec mode. If I type enable and enter privileged exec mode and put in a question mark, I'm given the commands that are available to me in privileged exec mode. I'll press the spacebar to get the next page of output. An even different set of commands is available to the user in global configuration mode. Notice I'll go to global config mode, put in a question mark, and I'm given a completely different set of commands that are available in this particular command mode. There are other uses for the help command as well. Let's say that I don't want a listing of all of the commands that are available, and I just want help finishing one particular command. For instance, let's say I'm putting in the command interface, but I've forgotten what the complete command name is. I've typed in, and I need help finishing the command. I can put in part of a command, and then put in a question mark.
You can type in any letter, one letter, two letter, three letter, followed by the question mark. It will give you the list of all the command that it starts with these letters. So you don't need to memorize the commands, but you have to know the basics of the commands. Sometimes people if you're not using the command every day, you forget. but there are help features within the iOS that can help you recall the command.
And it'll help me finish the command. Notice that I put in IN and then a question mark, and the help command has returned that the command that I'm looking for is interface. I can use the help command in another context as well. So now that I know that the command is interface, let's say I'm not sure what the next command parameter or argument is that goes with the interface command. In this case, I'll put a space and then a question mark, and it'll tell me the next parameter or argument that is required by the interface command. Now I know that the next part of the command is either the name of the interface, like Ethernet, Fast Ethernet, Gigabit Ethernet, or maybe it's VLAN or range. Related to the help command is the command syntax checker. The command syntax checker will let me know when I have a problem with the command that I've put in. For instance, we can see here that the next part of this command would be one of these arguments here. Let's say I make a mistake and I type in the number 33 instead of VLAN or range and hit enter. Notice that the command syntax checker has informed me that beginning at the number 3.
Okay, this is also important. Remember, this is going to help you a lot while you're working with the command line. So you see, whenever you type a wrong command, this little arrow, up arrow, will tell you that this part of the command is not right. Okay? And because it's so small, sometimes people they miss it. Okay? So whenever you type the command, and if the command doesn't work, this arrow will indicate what part of the command is not correct.
I've made an invalid input. This is extremely useful because it helps me to isolate where the problem is with the particular command that I've entered. This can work in different contexts as well. For instance, let's say that I've put in just the letter I instead of interface and I hit enter. The command syntax checker informs me that the letter I is an ambiguous command. The reason being is that if I type in I and a question mark, there's actually two commands that begin with the letter I in global configuration mode, the command interface and the command IP. The third example of the command syntax checker is when I type in interface and hit enter, and the command syntax checker has informed me that the command is incomplete. To solve this, I put in interface again, a space and a question mark, and I'm given the next set of options that I need to finish this command. You can see how the help command is very useful in learning the different commands that are available to you, as well as the correct context and use of the different commands.
So yeah, all the help features are there. There are some hotkeys or the shortcuts. Tab completes a partial command name entry. So if you type partial command and hit tab, it will complete the command. Backspace erase the character to the left, to the right. So these are all shortcut keys. I'm gonna let you read on your own. There's nothing for me to explain, right? There's a shortcut key and the explanation. And all this you need is going to help you to make your life easier when you're working with iOS command. All these Control C, Control Z, Control Shift 6. Okay, so let's look at this video about how to use the shortkeys.
Support for hotkeys and shortcuts makes the Cisco iOS extremely efficient. Making use of these will save you lots of time when you're configuring devices. I have a console connection to a switch, however, instead of using the terminal emulation program to console in, this time I'll click directly on the switch and go to the CLI tab. If I press enter, I'm taken to the command line interface. This is a convenient shortcut to the CLI available to you within Packet Tracer. The first hotkey that I'll talk about is the tab key or tab completion for automatically completing your commands. You can use it like this. To get to privileged exec mode, I would normally type the command enable. With tab completion, you simply type the first few letters of the command, in this case EN, and press the tab key on your keyboard, and the command is automatically completed for you. This is very useful. Now this will work if only one command begins with the letters EN. For instance, if I want to put in the command configure for configure terminal, and I type CON and press tab, it doesn't work. The command isn't completed. That's because if I put in a question mark, you can see that there's more than one command beginning with the letters CON in privilege exec mode.
So if there's more than one command, it will not complete the command. It has to be one. Okay? It has to be just one command. But if you type CONF and tab, guess what is going to happen? Then it will complete the command because there's no other command that it starts with CONF.
If I want to use tab completion, I'll need to type CONF and press the tab key, and you can see now the command is completed. For terminal, all I need to do is type the letter T and press the tab key, as there's only one argument or secondary command that follows configure and begins with the letter T, so the switch knows that the command I want is terminal. Even better than using the tab key is command shortening. With command shortening, instead of pressing the tab key to complete the command, you simply use the first few letters of the command, and the iOS will accept the shortened command without hitting the tab key. This is extremely useful. For instance, instead of typing the command interface fast Ethernet 0/1, which is a very long command to type, I can shorten the command to just INT, which is short for interface, F, short for fast Ethernet, and 0/1, and press enter. The iOS automatically knows the command I want and executes it, though you won't see it displayed as you do with the tab completion. Command shortening can make you even more efficient when configuring devices. Sometimes it's necessary to repeat commands. The fastest way to do this is to cycle through your command history using your up arrow and down arrow keys. If I type END on my keyboard and press enter to go back to privilege exec mode, and then I press my up arrow key, you can see that there are two commands in my command history. Pressing the down arrow key will take me forwards in my command history. This is very useful for commands that are used repeatedly. Now let's take a look at some hotkeys. Both Control+Z and Control+C will take us back to privilege exec mode. If I hold down Control+Z and press enter, you can see that I'm back to the privilege exec prompt. Control+C will do the same, and it can also be used to abort certain commands. For instance, if I type CONF and T and then change my mind, I can press Control+C and the command is aborted. Control+A will jump the cursor to the beginning of a line. I'll type configure and then press Control+A, and you can see that the blinking cursor is now back to the beginning of the line. If I press Control+E, the cursor jumps to the end of the line. Control+Shift+6 is another useful key combination. This sequence will interrupt the execution of a command after the command has already been entered. Let's say, for instance, I mistype the command configure and press enter on my keyboard. The iOS is trying to translate the letters that I typed into an IP address. So instead of being stuck in this situation, I can simply press Control, Shift, and 6, and the
I hope you guys gonna remember this because it happens a lot. People type wrong command and iOS try to translate to an IP address and it just stuck there for minutes. Okay, so whenever this happened to you when you're doing labs, press Control Alt F6. Okay? Alt F6. Control Alt at the same time. Control.
Command is aborted. Lastly, there may be times when you are working on the CLI of a device and an event occurs which generates a message interrupting the command you are typing. This can be very annoying. If this occurs, press Ctrl+R on your keyboard to return to the prompt where the partial command will be displayed, allowing you to finish typing. This sequence is not currently supported in this version of Packet Tracer. I'll simulate the use of these hotkeys by consoling into a physical switch and shutting down an interface on the switch while I'm in the middle of typing a command. I'll press Enter and type Enable to get to Privilege Exec mode, and then I'll go into Global Configuration mode. Let's say I want to enter interface G0/1. I'll start typing the command, and now I'll shut down an interface. You can see the message displayed across the screen. If I simply press Ctrl+R, I return to where I left off, and I can keep on typing. Now that's sweet. Using hotkeys and shortcuts is a great way to save you time when working with the Cisco iOS.
All right, so